This is Saturday Morning Mysteries.
And we're your hosts, Alexis and Grace.
Hello, good morning, and welcome back to another episode of Saturday Morning Mysteries, where we are your hosts. I'm Grace.
And I'm Alexis.
And we are back for our final, for now, Funky Phantom episode. I'm very sad to be at the end of this arc.
I am too. I'm gonna miss Mudsie quite a bit. But you know, it's like we're parents of these little arcs, and we watch them grow up and grow, and they mature, and we get much wilder speculation out of each episode. And I think we've taken this one. I think we've gone about as wild with the speculation as we can. So it's time to set it off to its next adventure.
To let it be
and we'll
free.
Be back with another one. Yeah.
Yes, that's a good point. Yeah,
wings.
the wilder our speculation gets, you can tell the further along in the arc we are, and then our limit of 8 episodes is usually a good cutoff point for ourselves.
Shit gets dangerous at 9.
Totally. Yeah. That's when we start getting the red string out on the walls behind us. So what red yarn? Yeah. You're right.
You are 1,000% correct, because this episode is teetering. Today's episode is literally teetering on the line. There were many points, Grace. I finished writing this just last night, and there were many points where I had to stop myself because I was like, Alexis, pull it together.
Pump the brakes, girl.
Pump the brakes. Look at your life and look at what you're doing. Look at your search history on your computer.
Look at your choices.
Like, things are about to go off of a cliff if you don't stop right now. You have a life. You have a career.
You have responsibilities and people who love you still.
You can't be doing this.
Okay.
So you are 1,000% correct and right on time in saying that, 8, we're cutting that shit off now.
All right, well, why don't you just take it away then? Let's, I guess, put away our red spools of yarn, or keep them, on hand.
Keep them. We'll do it, and we'll do it when we stop recording at the end. So today's episode, it is from episode 14 of The Funky Phantom, and it is called The Forest's Prime Evil.
Okay.
And we'll just jump right in. There's really no wild speculation to do about that title, other than that it sounds very foreboding and like something dangerous is about to go down. Yes. So it begins today. The episode begins with the gang riding the Looney Dooney through this massive, deep forest en route to a campground for a weekend camping trip. And as they're driving, they're taking in the beauty of the scenery, all of these beautiful trees lining the road around them, because admittedly, they're not just in any forest, Grace. You'll appreciate this. They happen to be in the sequoia forest.
Oh!
So, yes, they are driving around all of these sequoias, giant redwoods and everything, presumably through the Sierra Nevadas in California, because in America, that's where they are. And mostly in the world, that is where they are.
Yeah.
And they're, talking about how big they are, how beautiful they are, how old they are, which, yes, it is true. They are the biggest trees. I think they're the oldest living things on Earth, and they are the biggest trees, I believe, the most massive trees on Earth. And I did have to go onto Wikipedia, get some fun facts about trees in here.
Yes. Can I give you a fun fact about these trees?
Please do. Yeah.
That I don't know if it's through the U.S. Forest Service or National Park Service, but the oldest tree, the oldest either sequoia or redwood, that I want to say it's like 5,000 years old or something like that. That part might be incorrect. But the again, either National NPS or Forest Service will not tell the public where within the park it is, because they're nice. You people will ruin everything.
Yeah. Right, as
Hello,
you do, as you
public.
tend to do.
Yes, you will fuck everything up. So it's like a very
Yeah,
well guarded secret within the public land system that they are not going to
honestly,
tell anyone where it is, which correct.
wise. Yes,
Yes.
wise. I wonder, well, if you say that, that probably, because I kept reading about this one that's called like the King Arthur or something like that, but that's
Mm.
probably, it's one of the biggest ones, but it didn't say that it was the biggest one. So I was looking like, well, what's the biggest one? But then that explains why you
Well,
can't find it.
yeah,
Um,
that I mean, the King Arthur could be the biggest one, but that doesn't necessarily mean the oldest. So I think there's that distinction
That's
too.
true. Yeah, that's true. So, yeah, and so to that point, what they did say on Wikipedia, at least, is that the oldest known giant sequoia is somewhere they estimated, and I don't know what year this was when they put it on there, but they estimate between 3,200 and 3,266 years old.
Okay, so that might be more
So
correct than 5,000. Yeah. Either way,
super, but I
old.
mean, still, that's like insane how
Yeah.
old that is. That is older than Jesus Christ. That is older than, that's old. That's really old.
That's old as hell.
Older than hell.
Older than hell, actually,
Older
before
than
the
hell.
concept of hell.
It's before the Bible, right? So, geez, yeah, if it's older than Jesus, then it is older than hell. So, yeah, anyway, these things are amazing. They get up to like 280 feet tall or so, but the tallest one measured is 311 feet. And they are, of course, endangered species and are listed as such by the International Union on Conservation for Nature or something like that. And apparently, I didn't realize this, there were less than 80,000 trees remaining in California. So that's like
Yeah, we ruin a
not a
lot of
lot.
things.
Yeah, we do. We mess up a lot of things, but they started to grow them in other places now. So apparently, there are like more than 5,000 trees in the United Kingdom, and then they're in other countries too.
Mm.
But still, like there should be way more. And the main reason why there are national parks, there is a national park for them, is because they used to be exploited by logging, and they wanted to obviously protect them from any future corporate logging or anything like that, illegal activity. But now it's not really logging that they're worried about with sequoias. They're more so worried about fires and drought.
Mm-hmm.
And also a funny story that I'll tell later about them, which is pretty funny, but put a pin in that.
Okay. I'm
But
worried.
interestingly, it's funny. You'll laugh about it probably. But anyway, so since 2020, and this is the last fun fact for now about them, apparently wildfires have destroyed a combined 13 to 15% of the total like worldwide sequoia population. And that's just like wildfires in California that have done that since 2020. So crazy, sad, beautiful in a way at the same time.
Have you been out to the Redwoods?
I have not. I've been to the Sierra Nevadas, but I've not been to the
like the
Redwoods or like the actual national Sequoia National Park. Yeah,
I wasn't
like,
sure like
I
when
looked
you were
at
in
it on
San
a map.
Francisco if you went up.
No, yeah, we were like actually just north of Yosemite when we were there. We were in Bear Valley, which I was like, damn, well, why don't we go to Yosemite? Not that I'm shitting on that trip. That was a very fun trip. But I'm like, damn, so close to Yosemite.
Good, Bethany, why do you plan better for me?
Bethany, Laurel, Caroline, what's wrong with you guys? But yeah. So I've not. Have you?
Yes, yeah. We only live like, I don't know, 4.5 hours from it now. So yeah, I'd been there before moving to Oregon, and then this last Christmas we were out there doing some camping. So yeah, I love that area.
Nice.
Very deeply.
Yeah, definitely on my bucket list.
I also happen to be literally reading a book right now called Elder Flora, and it's about the history of the oldest trees in the world.
Oh my gosh.
They talk about these trees in it. So
well, please pitch in more throughout the episode because
no, I have nothing major to contribute. I don't have a great memory. But this is just a funny happenstance.
I just started the book.
I already gave you my fun fact.
Thank you. And that was good. It helped. It added. Thank you. So yes, the gang, they're driving through these beautiful sequoias. I hope we've painted a picture of all of their beauty so that you can really understand what Augie and Skip and April and even Mudsy are going through now as they're driving through this forest. So Augie is saying that, like, you know, I'm just as big and strong and in shape as these sequoias. And right? Like,
disrespectful.
Dude, cool it. Yeah, right. Disrespectful, please. And Skip, Skip puts him in his place. He's like, yeah, you definitely remind me of lumber, at least in the head. You're dumb as shit,
Nice.
Augie. And meanwhile, Mudsie is actually fascinated and mesmerized by these beautiful trees after April tells him that they're more than 1,000 years old, much more than 1,000 years old. Like that gets Mudsie's attention. Like, oh my God, you mean I'm not the oldest thing in the room anymore? This is amazing. It's so beautiful. And he's like, this, he says something like, these are like true, let's talk about a true American story or something like that. And I'm like, bro, they've been around longer than America. Like, or like a true American native or something. Way longer. But okay, good. That's cute, Mudsie. That's cute of you. So they keep driving. And, you know, I think Skip, he woke up and chose violence or something today because he sees that everyone is like enjoying these views and is mesmerized and happy and feeling great about this camping trip. And he's like, he cuts that shit off. He's like, you know, this is also Bigfoot country.
Oh my God. A Bigfoot episode.
Which, I mean, by the way, it's not technically, but and this is where I had to stop and think about where I am in my life.
Where in the Pacific Northwest is the range? Does it dip into Northern California?
And how many stories of alleged Bigfoot sightings do I want to read about to determine if indeed he is believed or the species is believed to be in the Sierra Nevadas? How deep am I going
How many did you listen to or read?
How much red yarn do I have to draw out on a map?
How many experiences did you read about before you came to this?
Like 2 or 3.
Okay, that's enough.
So, okay, to be fair, I was kind of skipping through the Wikipedia page. The Wikipedia page on Bigfoot is long. It's longer than a lot of other Wikipedia pages, let me tell you. And so I read through a few of like the sighting, whatever examples. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to read any more of those, but I did keep scrolling down the page and read
got more as you scrolled.
Yeah. And at a certain point, I was like, what am I doing? Alexis, I literally said out loud, Alexis, what are you doing? And backed away from my laptop. Like,
just
I'm not about to spend 45 minutes reading about Bigfoot.
45 minutes later.
So, so yes, Skip brings up Bigfoot. And Augie, again, exposing his utter lack of intellect and the fact that he's clearly never picked up a book in his life, asks, what's that? And Skip explains that Bigfoot is obviously a legendary 9-foot tall creature who's believed to be half man, half animal. And this frightens Mudsie, who then says, just like me, I'm half human, half chicken. Which is hilarious.
All right. Yeah.
I thought he was going to make a pun to like my last episode where he's like, I'm half human, half tiger. Like but Augie, he doesn't believe it and just says that Skip is telling tall tales. So at this point, I was like, let's talk about Bigfoot in my script. Let's talk about those tall tales.
Yes.
But you know what? Some of it I cut out because, again, I was not super proud of how much
what you became.
Yes.
Also, as just a really, before you dive into it, side note, so funny to be like, we don't believe in cryptids. We have a ghost with us. Like, if you're going to be experiencing, I don't know, I guess I am not that in tune with like the actual supernatural belief world, but I'm like, in for a penny, in for a pound situation?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Can you pick and choose what you believe in?
It's, in my opinion, as someone who, all right, whatever, fuck it. We're just going to put it out there.
You've been indoctrinated as of yesterday. 2 days ago, yes, Alexis didn't believe.
Yesterday, yes. This all began just yesterday. No, so I definitely watched way too much Ancient Aliens and shit that when we were in high school and all of that. So I'm not saying that I believe that Bigfoot or Sasquatch or the Loch Ness Monster or El Chupacabra or aliens, ghosts, etc.
Mothman.
exist. Hawkman, the lizard man. I don't believe in any of these things existing, but I think they're interesting stories. And
Yes, like the lore
at a
of them
certain
is very
point,
fun.
exactly, the lore is fun. And like at a certain point when there's a lot like circumstantial evidence on its own is like shit, right? But when there's
Yeah.
a lot of circumstantial evidence for something, it just makes something even more interesting to look into whether or not it's actually true. So yes, do I believe Bigfoot, Sasquatch, all that stuff exists? No, I don't. But I think that the whole field of like, I think it's called cryptozoology, is
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah,
And
I agree
as I
with
was
that.
reading through this Wikipedia page on Bigfoot in particular, you know, I was into it because, yes, this is something I've read about. I've watched shows and documentaries about in the past. But the sheer number of times that the page uses the word like alleged and anecdotal and stuff, at a certain point, it made me sit back and I was like, holy shit, that's right. What am I doing?
Also,
this,
so
this
funny
is
that
all
like
pseudoscience.
Wikipedia has so like truly endless pages, including endless pages about like conspiracies, and they are like the most
Yeah.
careful not to get sued only in cryptozoology pages.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
everything
Right.
else, they're
Everything
like,
else, it's like,
fact.
we'll run with
These
it.
things,
Yeah.
alleged, alleged.
Alleged. Described as allegedly
Yes,
seen, alleged observation.
yes.
So, yes.
But yeah,
Who
I
and what
agree.
is
Good
Bigfoot?
stories and
Yes,
like
they are
interesting to read.
entertaining.
Yeah, and I really like when
Yeah.
they like dive super deep into like, oh, what could have been going on in the world when the stories originated and like what were the circumstances that perhaps gave
Mm-hmm.
way to these stories, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm ready to
Exactly.
hear your
Yeah.
Bigfoot knowledge.
Cool. Thanks. It's,
I only know like a
pretty
couple
surface
things
level.
about Bigfoot, so
Yeah.
I'm ready
Okay.
to hear
Well,
more.
you know, and we've like kind of talked about Bigfoot on this podcast in the past, obviously, because you and I have each done episodes about either like a
The
Yeti or
Yeti.
abominable snowman, which is very similar. It's like
Yeah.
the snow cold climate version
Version.
of Bigfoot, essentially. But yes, Bigfoot, also commonly referred to as Sasquatch, is a large and quote unquote, allegedly a
Allegedly.
large and hairy human like mythical creature. This is straight from Wikipedia. Mythical creature alleged by some to inhabit forests in North America, particularly in the Pacific Northwest.
Hey.
So,
Yep.
yes, Oregon and Washington and Canada as well. Not California,
Maybe.
but maybe we'll see. So anyway, Bigfoot often described as a large, muscular, walking on two legs, human or ape-like creature covered in black, dark brown, or dark reddish hair or fur, and is estimated, yes, as Skip said, to be roughly between 6 to 9 feet tall, with some descriptions having the creature standing as tall as 10 to 15 feet.
Oh,
And
okay.
it, by the way, Wikipedia says creatures plural. So some people think that they've seen like that there are multiple Bigfoots. There are different ones. You see different
Mm.
ones in different forests, etc. It's like a whole like subspecies of man ape thing. Who knows? Some people, alleged observations say it's just one Bigfoot strolling around the whole Pacific Northwest. We simply do
Mm.
not
We do not
know.
know.
Do not know. But alleged observations describe Bigfoot as more human than ape,
Mm.
particularly in his face. And I think that most people who are familiar with the concept or the lore of Bigfoot, they do kind of think that like a skin face, but like hair surrounding the rest of their body, its
Yeah.
body. Is it a man? Is it a woman? Girl, boy? We don't know. And also, some alleged nighttime sightings have cited or stated that the creature's eyes glowed yellow or red, which
Oh.
Wikipedia then was like, but this could be owls or something else. We don't know.
Wikipedia is really covering it. Who wrote this? Did Bigfoot write this Wikipedia page?
I don't know, honestly. Like, with how long it is, it does make me think someone pro Bigfoot did write it because it's like, look at all these facts we have, look at all the data. It really, the only anecdote that I threw in here, because I mean, yeah, there's so many stories. And again, I stopped researching before looking specifically for stories in like the Sierra Nevadas. I was like, it doesn't matter. It's a mythical
Alexis.
creature, and this is a cartoon, whatever. So
there's no stakes here.
There's like literally very low stakes, no stakes at all. So I will say though, a man who owns what is called the Bigfoot Discovery Museum, his name is Michael Rugg. He claims, of all things, to have smelled Bigfoot. And he says he described the smell as this, quote unquote, imagine a skunk that had rolled around in dead animals and had hung around the garbage pits, which, oh my God, ew. That sounds also horrible.
It probably just was a skunk, like outside of Portland.
like Portland in particular, like just left a dumpster in the city.
And then went maybe to the woods where there was a dead animal
or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I think he just smelled a skunk.
He just smelled a skunk. Yes, exactly. Or maybe like someone just like threw their trash out.
Yeah.
In the woods. I don't know. But yeah, I thought that was funny because also, even though I guess it never occurred to me how Bigfoot might smell. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, Grace.
No.
But in hindsight, like, yeah, this thing walking around the woods covered in like fur, hair, matted fur, like clearly it doesn't shower or bathe. But also, ew, like, okay, it's probably a skunk.
Also, I'm like, how could you have at that point just smelled but not seen him? Because like,
seems dubious.
In similar creatures, bears would smell like that. I've been around bears and haven't smelled them, but I also haven't been like 5 feet from them.
Right.
I've been like 25 feet from them and you can't smell them. I'm sure up close they're nasty, but that far away,
not so much.
Yeah, you have to be real close, I think.
So when I was reading that in my mind, I was trying to play defense for this guy, clearly, because I was like, oh yeah, he was probably like in his tent or something and heard Bigfoot outside. It had to be Bigfoot. It wasn't a bear. He would know what a bear sounds like.
Smells like.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what a bear sounds like, yes.
Yeah.
Smell though? So yeah, I'm sure they smelled it bad.
That's all I got.
Can I give you one more Bigfoot?
Yes, please do.
Thing?
Please do.
And then I'll stop interrupting your fact finding with my additional alleged facts or real facts. Upon moving to the Pacific Northwest, one of the things that we were told regarding Bigfoot, and I don't know if this is like a Pacific Northwest specific rumor, if this is like a widespread rumor, I don't know. I did no follow-up at all. I just said, all right, and then continued on my life. So. But I've been told by multiple people here in Oregon that another like, I don't know, like warning maybe that Bigfoot is nearing, or that like you could be around a Bigfoot, big feet, whatever, is that sometimes you can hear like almost like a calling card of it, and it sounds like a didgeridoo. So if you're like in the middle of the woods and you hear like a faint noise of a didgeridoo, it could be Bigfoot, to which I say, we're in Oregon, it's probably some weird hippie. Like in the middle of the woods living off grid.
That ties into a lot of things that we might talk about later. And to that, that's hilarious. But also as a side note, a few weeks ago, I randomly changed my phone ringtone to a didgeridoo. And it still like startles me whenever people call me. Like I usually have my phone on vibrate, but like in the few instances that I actually have the volume, like the ringtone volume up, it like always startles me.
You're so like on the metro and someone who's from the Northwest hears your phone go off and they like
Bigfoot
start to panic. They sprint, they pull the emergency, sprint off.
Oh my God. Yeah. So it's either just some random hobo in Portland or maybe me just going for a hike. Somebody calling me.
Exactly. You got service out there.
Yeah.
Wow. First of all, iconic of you. Second of all, again, I don't know how widespread this is or if this is literally just a couple people told me and I said, great. Cool. But now I'm going to say, did you know it's an option on Androids?
If you get a Google Pixel phone, you can set it as your ringtone, and then people will also think
really throw
that you were
off.
Bigfoot. So yeah, never let them guess your next move. So yes, that's all we're gonna say about Bigfoot. At least background for him. Don't worry.
My ringtone.
We'll talk more about Bigfoot, but ringtone, yeah. So, anyways, okay, as the gang, they continue to drive down this road in the forest, and they hear a massive, like, cracking sound. Not a didgeridoo, thankfully, but actually, probably more terrifying. It sounds like a sequoia tree cracking, which would be very scary because, like I said before, they can get up to like 300 something feet tall, and they can be like the trunks of them can be 20 something, 26 feet wide. So that's massive if this thing is falling down on the road right in front of them. So they see it like this tree cracking and starting to slowly tilt. And they're like, Skip, hurry up, press on the gas. So he zooms past and is able to get over the tree or get beyond the tree right before it falls and blocks the road behind them.
Terrifying.
And so they get out. That would be so terrifying. It'd be so loud too. I imagine that whether anyone is there or not, a sequoia tree does make a sound.
Does make a sound.
When it falls. So the gang gets out of the loony doony and they're looking at the tree, trying to figure out how in the world this fell out of nowhere like that. And Augie jokingly is like, well, maybe it was your friend Bigfoot, Skip. And Skip, he's like, shut up, dude. Takes a look closer and is like, oh, no, this tree bark is rotted. So the wind must have pushed it over. And meanwhile, I didn't look into redwoods and how much something would have to rot for wind to push it over. Let's just trust Hanna-Barbera on this one.
On everything.
Meanwhile, Augie and April look down while Skip is still looking at the tree, and they see giant footprints all around this, like the tree that fell. And Elmo happens to be standing in one of these footprints for scale, thankfully. And we see that the footprint is bigger than this dog. So this is massive. This is a big footprint. So Skip rubs it in Augie's face at this point, like, still think it's a tall tale, which Augie is like, yeah, I think it's really tall, actually. Okay. So many puns in this, way too many to keep up with. And now that this tree is blocking the road behind them, they, for whatever reason, feel like they have no other way out of the forest. So they decide to pretty much pitch their tents and camp where they are. And look, as they're getting ready to step away from this tree, Mudsy's talking about something like how the forest is scary and full of shadows and the creatures of the forest and whatnot. They are timely startled by a visitor, a very large lumberjack looking dude named Grog, of all things.
Okay.
Grog, not Greg. Grog.
Nope. Grog.
Not Grog, like the football player, half of his last name, just Grog.
Grog.
So
perfect.
The kids, they're startled and they're like, oh my God, what are you doing here? And, they tell him like, well, we thought you were Bigfoot for a second because this dude's like super big. He's huge, but yes, very rude. He's not that ugly. Good Lord.
Yeah, damn. He's not that hairy.
But they also admit that, like, but that's stupid, right? Like, that's dumb of us to think you were Bigfoot because Bigfoot doesn't exist, right? Right, Grog? Sarah, we just
Grog?
Grog. And Grog tells them that folks have happened or claimed at least to see Bigfoot in the past in those areas of the woods. And they claim that when they see him, they get the hell out of there. So he doesn't just say this like casually, by the way. He says it matter-of-factly, like, yo, this is a warning. Leave. Do not stay here. And as he walks away, he's like, remember what I told you, kids. And then, like, goes back to his lumberjack duties.
Did he just walk back into the woods?
Yeah, kind of. Like, we don't really see where he came from or where he goes. He just appears and then leaves.
All right.
He is a creature of the forest.
I guess
exactly
so.
What Mudsy is.
Where did you come from? Where did you go? Where did you come from? God night, Grog.
God night, Grog. Nevertheless, seeing again that there is no other way out of this forest until morning for some reason, the gang, they're like, well, he told us to leave, but like, we're going to set up camp here anyways. So they start getting set up. And that night, while they're all asleep in their tents, which, okay, before I go further, I just have to describe these tents. So they've got two tents, right? April, I guess, is in one tent, which is very nice, like this massive, elaborate, very well set up tent.
For one person.
For one person. Augie and Skip are not really in a tent so much as they are under a tarp. It's like
absolutely makes sense.
Think about like what we use at regattas when we were rowing, like it's like that, and they're sleeping under that with blankets. So like this open air situation.
This all adds up. Yes. April said, we're going camping. Make sure you pack correctly. And they said, huh?
What's that? They get there. April, we thought you were packing. No, April, we thought we were all going to sleep in the tent with you.
She said, no, yeah, I did pack. Shuts the tent door.
Because in reality, like I love camping. I've gone camping quite a few times, like full tent camping, outdoors, etc. And in my mind, a tent like what Augie and Skip were using is what you would set up over if you're on a campground. It's what you would set up over like the table or something at your site, so that you can eat, have some coverage, etc. Sit and just hang out for a second. But like, it's absolutely not what you would sleep under. So in my mind, they brought that thinking, yeah, we'll set this up over our table so we can have nice covered meals in case of things. This is great. We brought our own sleeping bags. We're so excited to all sleep in this tent together. And they're like, obviously hoping they can sleep in the tent with April. Yeah, no, April was like, yeah, this is my tent.
I told you to pack.
I can't prepare for me. Yeah. So anyways, that's the sleeping arrangement, and Boo and Elmo meanwhile are sleeping outside under the stars by the campfire, which is going full flame, by the way, while everyone is asleep, just in this national forest.
Great.
This nature preserve. This is going well.
Great.
And as the animals are sleeping under the stars, they wake up eventually and begin to fight over this pillow and who gets to sleep on it. And they start chasing each other through the forest nearby with all of their little animal antics. And eventually, as they're running through the forest, Elmo, the dog, runs face first into Bigfoot, no less. And this is really the first good look that we get at Bigfoot in this episode. And I gotta say, Grace, it's unlike any other Bigfoot I've seen in animated media, literally ever. It is tall and covered in long hair and just has, big feet and hands.
So far, so good.
And it has yellow eyes, which, like, when you think of Bigfoot, you don't really think of him having yellow eyes. Yeah. But as we said before, some people allegedly have seen the yellow eyes of either Bigfoot or an owl in the forest at night. But this Bigfoot also has, like, pointed ears and this weird dark brown patch of fur around his chest and shoulders and neck, while the rest of him is a much lighter brown. So in my mind, he doesn't look like a man ape. He looks like a man jaguar, if that makes sense, because of the pointiness of his ears. And like, I don't think he has whiskers, but he kind of has more of like a cat mouth and like a longer mouth and like an ape face. Yeah, it's weird.
Interesting. Okay.
So they made a choice with that animation, but I'll give it to them.
They did make a choice. They didn't want to get sued by Bigfoot for misrepresenting him.
Exactly.
They said this character is inspired by, not based on.
Exactly. And I will say, I wish I would have left it up. But the like quintessential image of Bigfoot that people know of from like that still in the footage
the like greenie or walking away.
Exactly. That was, I think that was captured in like 69. I'm actually pulling it back up. 67. So it was technically before, it was not even technically, it literally was like 4 years before the show came out. So I'm like, had an image to work with. It's
They
not
weren't going to
like
go to the
the excuse we
librarian
give them so many other times. Yeah, like they
search
didn't
the
have the internet. They
microfiche.
didn't have exactly like they could have,
But they didn't.
but they
They said,
didn't.
"Who remembers that image? We'll guesstimate
Kind
it."
of. It's from memory. Yeah, kind of. I think he had more. No, no, no. It had more of a jaguar face in
Yeah,
my.
that's
Yeah,
so
you're right.
funny.
You're right.
The
We'll do a
the
jaguar.
snout aspect of it.
Yeah, of all things, that's what they made a choice with. So,
Choices.
anyways, nonetheless, this is the Bigfoot we got. It's not the
Great.
Bigfoot we asked for, but it's the Bigfoot we got. So
We deserve it's the Bigfoot we
you
deserve.
deserve. So here we are. Elmo, he runs into this monster, and obviously it terrifies him. So the dog quickly turns around and runs back to camp, frightened and trying to warn the others about this monster in the woods near them. But he's running back so quickly and not like paying attention to what he's doing. And he runs into and destroys Augie and Skip's tent
Wasn't
in the
hard.
process. Yeah, I know. All he had to do was run into a leg of it, and that thing was
Yeah, all
done.
came down.
And so once the dust settles, because Augie and Skip are obviously like panicking in the middle of sleeping and their tent collapses on them, they get uncovered from the tarp slash tent in their sleeping bags. And they realize that it was just Elmo, who they are now like, God, he's probably just chasing Boo through the woods. What's wrong with you? And they're pretty mean, actually, berating Elmo here. Like, you dumb dog, what are you doing? Ruining everything. And Elmo's like, no, no, no. He can't talk, obviously, but trying to use his dog mannerisms to say that he wasn't chasing Boo. He was running away from Bigfoot. And the gang doesn't believe him when he charades this or acts this out, whatever you want to say. And they tell him to go find somewhere else to sleep. Like, go get out of the campsite. Like, go sleep somewhere else. I know, super sad. And this is all, by the way, Augie for the most part who's saying this. So I shouldn't say the gang is berating him. It's really just Augie.
Rude.
So Elmo, he sadly strolls off into the woods by himself, head hanging low, so that he can find a new place to sleep. And so that Augie, who's been complaining about getting his beauty sleep, can get some rest. And as Elmo continues to walk through the woods, he catches scent of Bigfoot tracks, and probably of Bigfoot if Michael Rugg.
And how would you describe
correct.
the scent that Elmo picks up?
It has a skunky hue to it and a bit of a garbage and dead animalness to it. A nice air of death, if you will.
Elmo acts it all out.
Yes, please. But rather than yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. He could have gotten his humans and then showed them the tracks, but I think he's trying to prove something here. So rather than going back to camp, he just follows the tracks and continues sniffing out the trail.
He's going to be a big tough boy now.
Exactly. He's trying to prove to them that he's tough and that he wasn't making this shit up, that this isn't all necessarily his fault for ruining the camping trip. It's actually Bigfoot's. But meanwhile, April, back at camp, she's like going hard on Augie and even on Skip a little bit, scolding the boys for being so hard on Elmo.
Correct.
But they play it off like, yeah, he's tough. He'll be fine. He's got nothing to worry about out there. And they're all restless and a little shaken now after all this commotion and being like violently woken up in the middle of the night. So and I guess since their tent is ruined, since the boys' tent at least is ruined, they decide to just huddle up in blankets outside and sleep by the campfire.
April's still like, you were mean to Elmo. Goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye. No, yeah. So it does not make sense to me whatsoever, and you'll probably question it when you watch it too. But April sleeps out by the campfire with him. I think she's just trying to be a good friend and be supporting and everything. Like, oh, you guys are obviously like stressed out and traumatized. Here, let me comfort you.
She's gonna wait till they fall asleep.
Tent is all empty,
and then she's gonna go back to her tent. Right. Yeah, I'll stay out here with you boys. No, you can't go in my tent. You guys are gross. You guys kind of smell like skunks.
But you smell like Bigfoot.
You're gonna stay outside of my tent, but I'll stay up with you till you fall asleep.
And it's funny that you say that because, like, yeah, they fall asleep. She runs back into her tent, and then she wakes up before them and runs back out and lays back out like she never left. Because the next morning they wake up. They wake up, they stretch. They're kind of complaining about their backs hurting from sleeping on the ground. And Skip is like, yeah, and it's all Elmo's fault. And they look around and they're like, huh, where is Elmo, by the way? He hasn't come back yet. He's still
Great
not back
question.
at camp. He's been gone for a while. And yeah, like you're saying,
What kind
April
of dog owners
chimes
are
in
these?
like, he probably ran away after the way you guys talked to him and treated him last night. I don't blame him. And the gang is like, well, here are his footprints over here. I guess let's like try to follow him, or his paw prints. And as they follow them a little bit off of their or out of their campsite, they are horrified when they see that trailing right along Elmo's footprints are Bigfoot footprints as well.
Yes.
And at this point, they begin to maybe believe that Elmo did see Bigfoot last night after all. So they tell April, Augie and Skip, they tell April to go back to camp and wait there with Mudsie in case, Skip, or in case Elmo comes back, or, in case things get dangerous. And Augie and Skip decide to follow Bigfoot and Elmo's tracks deeper into the woods. And so the boys, as they're following these tracks, they eventually come across this fenced off area with a sign out front in like all big bold letters that says, "Keep out. Federal Sequoia Nature Preserve."
Okay.
And so let's talk about the Sequoia Nature Preserve. We're going to unpin some things that we talked about earlier. So a lot of this we already hinted at. Sequoias, they are indigenous. Is that what you say for trees? I feel like that's not right. Indigenous, okay, to the Sierra Nevadas in California. Again, not Bigfoot country, but we're just gonna let it slide.
We're just gonna let it go.
Away. We're just gonna let it go. And so the park was first preserved as land set aside for recreation through an 1890 bill passed by Congress, probably one of the last years that Congress ever did anything. And it was set aside to protect sequoia trees, as I mentioned before, from logging companies in order to keep the pristine beauty of the land for years to come. And recent times have brought new public safety issues to the park, such as, like I said before, forest fires, and much less logging is a concern now. And in addition, and unpinning in particular that thing that I said, like we'll talk about another kind of funny anecdote. So in addition to forest fires and stuff like that, another thing, which also maybe ties into the didgeridoo thing that you said before too, is that apparently illegal marijuana growing sites have been found throughout the park.
Also, like, y'all, it's California. You don't need to hide them anymore.
Exactly. Which such a good point. You just do it at your home. Buy a freaking PC grow kit, whatever. Anyways, so
you're in California now.
Yeah, and this is as recent as 2020. Because when I was reading this on the Sequoia National Preserves Wikipedia page, I was like, wow, okay, this must have been from like the 80s or something crazy. No, there was like an article as recent as 2020 where there was a $5 million bust there, and I'm assuming others have occurred in that same time period. Sorry.
Also, so fucking stupid because one, not only are you in California where it's 2024 / I guess that bust was in 2020
where even at the time it was still legal,
but like instead of doing it at a state-run park, you're doing it on federal lands, which does mean it's a felony.
The one place where it's not legal in the state of California, this massive national park span. It's like, hey, stupid. They got what they deserved. I am very glad
those people had so many other ample opportunities.
Dumb. And as if there's not a lot of land in California.
Right.
I mean, like the small portions of the state that I've driven through have been literally like all farmland.
Yes, exactly.
It's like I've been to San Francisco, in farmland. That's it.
Yes.
They crazy.
They done did fucked up themselves. I don't feel bad for those guys.
Yeah, me neither. Not at all. Like totally in favor of marijuana being legal and of people growing it and cultivating it, but don't do it on a fucking national park and like in a nature preserve of all places. Exactly. You made a choice and you deserve every repercussion.
Federally owned land. You could have walked 10 more feet and been on state land. Come on.
So I told you would see. I told you.
That was funny. I did get a good kick out of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
How stupid people are.
Yes. So that's all we'll talk about for the park. I was like, I'll end it on that note. So when Skip reads the sign saying Sequoia Nature Preserve, Augie, again exposing how much of an idiot he is, asks Skip, does this mean we're in a jam? Which took me a second. And I will say,
like a log jam?
As a food lover, like a jelly jam preserves. Oh,
actual jam.
Like great, yeah, like strawberry preserves. Yeah. So like the foodie in me appreciated the pun after I got it. And the normal person in me though was like, you're an idiot. A nature preserve.
Oh, preserve.
Strawberry preserves. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't get it.
Are we in a jam? Exactly. That's I had to listen to it like 3 times. Like, what the fuck is he saying? Oh my God, this guy's an idiot. But good food pun. I'll give it to him.
That was a good pun. Yeah.
It was. Because hey, we had to think about it for a long time.
You had to explain it to me.
Yeah. It's a miracle that I even understood it. Skip must have said something because again, I had to listen a few times, be like, what are you talking about? A jam. Yeah, and then Skip said, no, not that kind of jam or something like that.
Oh, whatever. Yeah. Great.
So Skip then says, no, it's a forest where trees are protected by law, which at this point, Skip is done with Augie at this point. Like you can see the anger in his face when Augie says this. Like, no. It's a protected area.
Why would you fucking idiot? Think we're at that?
Exactly. What does that even mean? How will we be in jam? What are you talking about?
Yeah, what is wrong? Shut up, Augie. Shut up, Augie. I will feed you to the Bigfoot
down so much. Yeah. You're slowing me down. Okay. Yeah. So Augie is now even more worried after Skip explains to him what a nature preserve really means. He's worried because he says that Elmo can't read and therefore doesn't know that he's in a protected forest. Which, let's just keep going. So Augie,
I do not like Augie this episode.
I don't. He's the worst. The absolute worst. So Augie, the worst. John Ralphio. Worst. Augie calls for Elmo, saying like, being panicked now, like, oh my God, Elmo, where are you? And soon after, the doggo, the good boy, he pops his head out of a nearby bush, actually, trying to tell them like, dude, quiet down, shut up, and points behind them.
Oh,
and they look
behind them.
Yonder. Behind them, yeah. And they look over yonder behind them, or maybe it's like to the side of them, whatever. And Elmo points out Grog, the big lumberjack looking dude who we met earlier, cutting down a tree nearby with a chainsaw.
Sir,
did you not read that sign, sir?
Sir,
excuse me.
Can you not read?
This is the one time it's okay to be a Karen, okay, and come out and be like, hey, excuse me, sir.
Yeah. Does he see your permits?
I need to see your permit. Are you following the rules here? So. Yes, feeling like something is not quite right. Augie and Skip decide to investigate a bit. And they go a bit deeper, beyond where this keep out or whatever sign is, the sign for the nature preserve. They go around it a bit and they see what appears to be an old abandoned lumber camp not too far in the woods.
Okay.
And they decide this is probably a good place to begin our investigation. So they walk up to a cabin in this camp and they see someone inside. And, to avoid from being spotted, they like hide in these bushes kind of near this open window by the room where this guy is sitting. And they're listening in on what he's saying. And this guy, again, just another shifty lumberjack looking man. I think his name is Mullins. He's sitting at a desk operating a shortwave radio. And he sends out a message saying that, quote unquote, they're operating at full speed and will have the full area stripped of trees before the forest rangers find out about it. And he goes on to say that Grog and him will begin floating the first logs down the river tonight. So they're just giving it away at the jump, like, hey, here are our criminals
illegal logging
today for this episode. Illegal logging, exactly.
Damn. All right.
And to add to the incrimination, Elmo points out to Augie and Skip that there is a Bigfoot costume hanging on the wall in the cabin.
Big surprise.
pretty much resolving the entire mystery at this point. So here we are, halfway through the episode, like, okay, we know who's doing it and we know what their MO is. So the rest of the episode is now about them trying to catch and
stop
turn
this
in
extremely serious crime.
Very serious, yes. Which we will talk about in just one moment. We will talk about logging. Okay. There's a lot of sidetracking tangents in this episode.
I love so all many of them. They're all relevant to me.
So the boys, they move on to, they get out of this bush and they're like, all right, we got to get out of here and we got to call the park rangers immediately, give them all this information. They're like, correct, we're not about to like intervene and do this. Like, let's call the authorities and get exactly. And they are very big, large men.
And again, this is federal land. This is the feds to call.
Like, y'all have this. You have unlimited resources pretty much to stop these exact sort of crimes.
Great.
So before they get far, though, unfortunately, they're cornered by Grog, who spotted them sneaking around the property and peeking into the window, listening in on Mullins' conversation. So Grog, he doesn't just think that they're trespassing. He now realizes that they know about the crimes that they're committing in this nature preserve. And so those crimes, yes, Grace, as you said, very serious crimes, in fact. Because what is logging? After all, there's legal logging for sure, and there is illegal logging. But in many cases, yes, the harvesting procedure, like the process of actually cutting down and removing trees from any given location, is illegal through either international laws, like this is why the Sequoia Nature Preserve is like a UNESCO site, right? Because the UN has a legal or international laws now saying, hey, these are protected trees and you can't fuck with them, as does, I'm assuming, the federal government in America under the National Park Service has laws saying, hey, you can't cut these. One, they're in danger of extinction, and two, like, hey, they're beautiful and we need to like preserve nature in this country, and they're fucking trees. Exactly. There's a lot of public good. And also because there is, naturally with any sort of trade, like there can be a lot of corruption involved, there can be a lot of black market stuff involved, so all of those underlying crimes are obviously also very frowned upon and should not be done. So there is there are a lot of corrupt means used to gain access to forests, to extract without permission or from a protected area. There are a lot of extractions of protected species. Like we said, the sequoia is protected, and logging it was like the reason they started the park originally back in the late 1800s. But now that's not so much a concern. So in the 70s, maybe logging was bigger for sequoias, but nowadays probably. I don't think that's really something that people worried about. Yeah, exactly. The wild, wild west, man. And I will say, this was something that I learned the most from this article on Wikipedia, is that illegal logging may involve the so-called timber mafia, which I had not heard of, the timber mafia. And I am intrigued, Grace. I saw this, and not only did I see the word, I did a bit of a deep dive because I was excited enough to see the phrase timber mafia. It's like, oh my God, there's a whole nother world of mafia stuff.
Yes, tell me everything.
I was even more excited to see that there was a hyperlink underneath timber mafia. There's a whole Wikipedia page on it. It's short. It's very short, way shorter than the Bigfoot page.
But essentially, timber mafia made sure it was short.
Gotta keep it brief. Gotta keep our cards close. Yeah,
no more hyperlinks.
There's not much information on them. I guess, each country has its own kind of thing going on, but it's just a collective term used to describe people who, use black market means and illegal means to cut and deforest and log trees and whatnot.
So Grog and Mullins are part of the timber mafia.
They are part, exactly. I was like, oh my God, this explains who these villains are.
We're seeing the timber mafia live.
And so some fun examples of the timber mafia. In Romania, for instance, the forest industry is dominated by a timber mafia, per Wikipedia, those who cross the timber mafia or attempt to enforce Romania's forest laws are targeted often for retribution. And this is according to like a December 2020 Al Jazeera article.
Oh my God.
So this is like recent shit. Like they're still in the forest, in the woods of Romania, like offing people for also, like cutting down trees not on their turf.
I demand that the timber mafia can only like serve punishment in ways that have to do with like wood puns or like the timber industry. Like put them in the wood chipper. Like that's how they get rid of the body.
Saw them into pieces.
Yeah, like it all has to be. There's a lot of themes that they use the wood within.
To do like flayed men, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
The crosses that they hang people on. That's wow.
But
possible and probable, actually.
Yeah, it must be wood themed.
I will say I'm very interested in deep diving into this world of the timber mafia.
Don Woodchuck.
Oh, that would hurt. We're so bad. Can you imagine like having beavers like just slap you in the face with their tails and knocking at
when you deal with the timber mafia, instead of hearing the didgeridoo, you hear like a beaver chewing and like the slapping, and that's
like
how you know they're on their way. Or
something hitting a tree, just like
that's how you know they're coming.
Watch out, a chainsaw rattling. Actually, most of these things would be terrifying. Like,
exactly.
I would not want to hear a chainsaw coming at me in the woods.
No.
But anyways, additionally, Grace, just one last fun story or fact that I thought you'd like to know as a part of the Timber Mafia Wikipedia page is that another country that is just unfortunately bustling with Timber Mafia activity that was kind of like I wasn't expecting this one, not gonna lie, but it's Bhutan. Bhutan.
No.
Yeah, I know.
They have a happiness GDP and there's a timber mafia.
And they say that over the past decade or so, the increase has like gone crazy in timber mafia.
Get Eliza Thornberry back in there.
They need to get her in. They need to
get Nigel in there.
One who can stop it. Yeah. And they allege that it's from spillover from parts of India that are bordering Bhutan, because apparently it's wild in India too. The timber mafia is like crazy there. So anyways,
oh no,
we know logging is bad. It destroys ecosystems, it leads to deforestation and loss of biodiversity, so we should not do it. There is a way to safely do it, and there are specific areas that are designated for doing it, but come on, don't do it on protected land. And
we did see
endangered trees. Yeah.
In our Wild Thornberries episode that took place in Bhutan, we did see how incredibly easy it was to cross the border undetected.
Yeah.
With Eliza simply walking
through
the border undetected.
Just hiding in a pile of hay.
Yeah, and like a rickshaw or something.
Not a yak. What are they called? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's how realistic that show is. So
they can fit some lumber in that. Yeah.
The timber mafia is just hiding in some hay piles. Wood chip piles, sorry.
The timber mafia is dressed up as not the yaks, girl. But whatever.
Was it the
what are they called? Damn, I forget. Those massive like yak type things. Yeah, it's whatever. They dress up as those because then you can fit like 3 people into one costume.
Exactly.
So they're just like
the tack
flowing into the tack-in. Thank you.
Yeah.
Tack-in.
Yeah.
Wow. The national animal of Bhutan, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, the many things we learn on this podcast. Let me tell you.
Things.
So many things. So anyways, yes, Grog, he spotted the boys peeking into the windows. Grog of the timber mafia, we're now saying. Indeed. He spots the boys peeking into the windows of the lumber camp, and he begins to chase them around the property. And eventually, at one point or another, Bigfoot joins in and chases the boys away from the lumber camp as well, and into the woods, where they run into a classic booby trap. And at this point, though, the boys, they remember seeing the Bigfoot costume in the cabin. So they're pretty much just referring to Bigfoot as Grog. And, later Grog shows back up as, himself in his lumberjack clothing. Yeah. And they are like, why don't you put your Bigfoot costume back on or whatever? And so Grog at this point, after the boys are in the booby trap, he gets the boys from there and Elmo, and he ties them up in the lumber camp and holds them prisoner there for a while. Yeah, right. This is looking great. Going well, guys. You guys are doing a great job of stopping this deforestation.
Yes.
Eventually, April, back at camp, begins to worry about the boys being gone for so long.
Good call.
And she's like, Mudsie, I think you and I should probably go out and look for them.
They're probably
dead. Taking longer. Yeah. It's like 2 days later.
She's like, yeah, they've been eaten by a bear probably by now.
I would leave, but Skip has the keys to the Looney Tunes, so we should.
I've been trying to hotwire it for 2 days, and I can't figure it out. This is the one thing I don't know how to do.
This is the only reason she's looking. She's like, I've run out of options here.
Hopefully they dropped the keys on the way, so at least I can just grab them.
Yeah, then we don't have to go all the way to them. So while she's following various footprints and paw prints to find her friends, April and Mudsie, just like everyone else so far this episode, run face first into Bigfoot, who, of course, chases them for a bit through the woods.
Yeah.
And Mudsie, he picks up April at this point. He's like, yeah, you're running too slow, man. So he picks her up and pretty much flies away with her, while our mischievous Boo trips Bigfoot, leaving him immobile and with a likely severe head injury. Like, again, you hear the thud and the like crack as he lands.
Boo's
Bigfoot is also an endangered species. Thank you very much. What if this was the real Bigfoot? You would have been wiped off the planet.
If a Bigfoot falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, does it bleed out?
Does it bleed out? Does its neck break?
Does it scream?
Boo's like, I've always wondered this. Let's test it out and see. So eventually, they come across, after running away from the now incapacitated Bigfoot, April and Mudsie and Boo come across the lumber camp. And outside of this camp, they overhear Grog and his co-conspirator talking about the boys and the dog being tied up, and that they only need to go and get the girl now. And once the men run off to find April, her and Mudsie, they decide to take a sneak peek inside of the cabin to see what's going on in there, because at this point they can assume or infer that that's probably where their friends are. And indeed, they do see Augie, Skip, and Elmo all tied up inside.
Mudsie, do you see the keys?
Can you get the keys? Or here, Mudsie, go invisible and get the keys out of Skip's pocket.
Yeah, let's go. I think I see him in there.
Get the hell out of here. They're probably fine. I will say, though, it's pretty concerning how... So Skip and Augie are tied up in like a regular way, in a way that they probably could have gotten out of, by the way. Like, it's only they're sitting on the ground and they're tied
like around their chest,
back to back around their chest. Yeah,
so like they could just
stand up and like lift them off. Easy, simple. But more concerningly is the way that Elmo is tied up.
Oh no.
He is stretched out with his arms forward and his legs back, and his 2 front paws are tied together and his 2 back paws are tied together. So it's almost like they could pick him up and put him on like a rotisserie thing. Yeah. It's sad. And he looks really sad too. Like, it's
almost a bad time.
I don't know why they chose to do that. And it
they really just put him on a leash
and stuck with me. Exactly.
Yeah. This episode's actually about Elmo.
It really is. And his abuse. I hope he gets better owners after this
for real.
But anyways, so they see this, April and Mudsie, and they're obviously startled on one hand to see their friends in this state, but excited to know that they found their friends. So Mudsie, he goes into the cabin to save them. And he lets April in so that the group can then come up with a plan to take down this timber mafia.
Mm-hmm.
And their first idea, which actually is suggested by Boo, nonetheless, of course, through obviously the animal mannerisms.
Boo just has the chainsaw.
Yeah. I've always got an idea.
And like gasoline. Already dumping it in the cap. Oh no. Go on.
Put some pins down there.
Go on.
So the first idea is, it's a very good and sane and reasonable idea, is just to use that shortwave radio to make a call to the park rangers and tell them about what's going on. And they're like, oh yeah, great idea, Boo. Like, definitely bring it on over here. Let's do that. But Elmo is a little jealous that Boo is getting all the love and the shine. So Elmo like snatches the radio from Boo and decides to carry it over to the other humans instead. So you can be like, see, look, like redeeming myself. I destroyed the tent for a good reason. I was right about all of this, about Bigfoot. But he's feeling himself a little too much.
Oh no.
And isn't looking where he's walking.
Sweet
and
boy.
Trips over, I think, a rug or something like that in this cabin. No. Drops the radio, and it just breaks into a million little pieces. I guess he bought that thing from Radio Shack because that shit did not hold up whatsoever.
Yikes.
Like, how did a radio fall? But anyway, whatever. So they're back at square one and back being shit out of luck, not having a way to communicate with park rangers. And of course, also berating Elmo yet again for messing everything up. So, in this, the year of our Lord, 1971, the gang must contemplate another way to get a message to the park rangers. Of course, no computers, no cell phones,
and
no
it's
pagers even.
Having
they're in the middle of the forest.
Their ghost blip out of existence and then back into existence at the ranger station. That's not on the docket.
That's not that I don't think they feel quite comfortable with doing that quite yet. You're right. Okay. That probably would have been a great idea, but no. Hey, rangers aren't going to believe a ghost. What? Like what? This ghost saying there's logging? What is this
what
ghost
are you talking about? What kind of prank is this? What are you talking
about? No. The gang, I think it's Skip's idea actually. They come up with another idea. A good idea. One that actually I would consider as my preferred method of communication, even today in the year 2024.
Okay.
A smoke signal.
No! Can I tell you what I thought you were going to say?
What? Yeah.
I thought when you said my preferred message, I thought you were going to be like carrier pigeon. Just because it's a bird. Carrier owl. But, oh no, okay.
Carrier owl.
Smoke signal. I guess that'll attract the rangers because that'll be a problem. They'll want to go see what's going on.
Yeah,
but
fair. True, exactly. And they know, you see a pigeon or an owl flying through the woods, like, okay. Cool.
Yeah, same old.
It's a pigeon or an owl, but you see smoke and you're like, oh fuck, exactly like you said, get your attention.
Okay.
You know something is wrong. You follow.
It's going to have to be a very tall smoke signal. These are very tall trees.
These are 300-foot tall trees.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am concerned about this plan.
Yeah, exactly. We're on the same page here because, I've typed this out, while this is a good and clever idea, again, no computers, no phones, no more radio. The one thing about a smoke signal, other than, yes, this being the sequoia forest, so very tall trees and endangered species trees, so dangerous, setting smoke or, fires around them. The only other thing that makes this not a great idea and makes this worse than a radio call is that a smoke signal leaves a signal that can be seen by everyone near and far.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Thus, while the rangers may see the signal, Bigfoot, Grog, what's his other name? Mullins. They all see the signal too.
I didn't even think about that.
Immediately. Yes.
Yeah.
So the kids are doing a great job setting this smoke off. It's a nice contained fire. They've got a
they're doing it the smart way.
Yeah, they're doing it the smart way. It's working. And they're excited. Like, all right, the rangers should see this any second now and we'll be safe.
Idea.
But before the rangers get there, Bigfoot beats them.
Yep.
He's chasing them around. And then at some point, Mullins, he gets there too. And he's chasing them around. And, they're all heading straight towards the kids. It's chaos. It's chase through the woods. Mudsie and Boo, they see people coming from all angles and they're like, okay, well, we'll see you guys back at the Looney Dooney.
Good luck. We'll be at the ranger station.
We don't want to be chased. Exactly. No, thank you. We're going to go get some water, take a seat. So they fade out while the three teens then are forced to split up as they're, one Bigfoot is chasing them and one timber mafia person is chasing them. So April goes one way while Augie and Skip go the other. And this does not go well. It immediately goes to shit, right? Augie and Skip, for whatever reason, decide to run into the cabin of one of
corner themselves.
They literally corner themselves because right after they run into it, what's his name? Mullins, he closes the door from the outside and locks it.
Easy.
And he's like, all right, good. That was easy. Done. 2 seconds down. All right, let's go. So then we see April on her chase, and Elmo did decide to run along with her, but he didn't get too far because, he runs with her for a few steps and then he stops and turns around and just starts barking at Bigfoot to try to scare this massive monster away, who at this point also, though, he takes off his mask and reveals himself to be Grog in costume. Yeah. So I think that's also why Elmo is barking at him, because he knows, like, okay, well, whatever. Yeah. But the Grog, he just picks the dog up and just throws him in a barrel and like shuts the barrel, and
Elmo,
he's like,
bite
okay,
him.
Good. Yeah, right. Now is a justified time to bite, Elmo. You can do it. But no, he doesn't. He gets locked in a barrel instead. And Grog then carries Elmo in the barrel back to this cabin, and we've now got Elmo, Augie, and Skip right back in the cabin where they were just locked in. So literally nothing has
all
changed.
Of that for naught.
Besides April is now by herself running away from
terrifying
this other, who she thinks is Bigfoot still. And so she's the last one standing after this 5-second chase. And she's running and running and running. I guess she's not really checking behind her anymore because she's just so terrified.
Yeah.
And she just runs directly off of a dock. Great.
What?
He's like, she just runs right. I thought you were
going to say cliff.
Nope. So did I. When I watched the episode. I was like, where did this dock come from? I don't know. But it kind of makes sense because she runs off of it and falls onto a log flume that is heading directly to a nearby river. So those metal, like the conveyor belt things that logs float down to get into the water.
Got it.
So she's like sliding on a log down this thing.
They were near one.
Tomorrow they're getting ready to
ship
them.
They set us up to know they were close to one. Okay.
Yeah. So it's fair. Even though it was confusing at first.
Yes.
So she's flying down this river on a log, like, oh my God, I can't stop this thing. I'm about to go into the river and probably drown and die or whatever. And Bigfoot, he sees this from like the shore. He's like, all right, yeah, she's good. She won't make it. So then he turns around. Exactly. She's going to die. So then he turns around and goes back to the cabin to, catch up with Mullins and make sure that everyone is locked up and captive as they should be in there. And April, she's flying down this flume, screaming for Mudsy's help, saying like, Mudsy, please show yourself if you're here. Like, I really could use your help now.
Yeah.
And he does appear, and he's able to catch her just before the log violently drops from the flume into the river below by like hanging from a tree overhead and like grabbing her arms or something.
Uh-huh.
And so they start to head back to the cabin to save their friends. And inside of this cabin, we see Grog checking in with Mullins, saying that, are they ready to take care of these boys in here?
Uh-oh.
And the boys inside, I guess they didn't tie their hands up this time. Like, they just locked them in there in the building, and they're going to go in and like do whatever now to them. So when they go in the cabin, when, the villains go in the cabin, the boys are standing on the other side of a table that has a mountain of sawdust on it. And the boys just blow this sawdust right in their faces.
It's a pretty good plan.
It is a good plan. But I'm like, man, you guys didn't remember that you left that sawdust out? Like, and all the chainsaws just sitting around in here?
A bunch of fucking weapons in there?
Yeah. Crazy that you didn't tie them up.
This would be a very good horror movie, by the way.
It would be, anything
like this is where it turns. Exactly.
Yeah, they've got a good
Deep
formula
dark forest.
Here. Yeah. A ghost from the Revolutionary War.
He belongs in every movie, horror or not.
So, yeah, these villains, these timber mafia folks, they're temporarily blinded by this sawdust in their eyes and they're stumbling around. They can't see. And the boys then dump, unpinning something else you said earlier, kind of. They dump a bunch of oil on the floor. So, not gasoline, but oil, which the villains then slip and slide on. And they're like all falling over and, uncontrollably moving through this cabin. And they slide right into a tool closet. And the boys like shut the door and lock it. These villains, they're desperate. They are not going to fall out or go down this easy.
Oh no.
So they use a chainsaw.
Of course, they're in a tool closet.
Like right of all places to lock them up. They cut a hole through the wall and they escape from the tool closet.
Yeah, the timber mafia doesn't fuck around.
No. They're always ready. Always ready. The boys try to run away, but they also start to slip and slide in the oil that they just dumped everywhere, and they fall over, thus opening themselves up for a very easy capture by the villains, who for the third time today take them prisoner.
Third time.
The third time. In like an hour. Not even just today, but in an hour.
Yeah.
So the loggers, this time they learn from their mistakes. They tie the boys up to a log that is running through one of those long like conveyor belts that has like the saw at the end, so you can like cut a massive tree trunk in half.
How the timber mafia finishes them off using their own tools. Yes, and horror movie. They look and they're like, "Is that saw blade already bloody? Oh God!"
Who else has been here? You'll never know.
Exactly.
So, yeah, and it's violent because the way that they hang the boys over the log, it's implying that, like, I guess getting cut in half either way is pretty bad, but it's implying that they're going to get cut at the waist. So, like, their legs are going to fall off one half of the log. But, yeah, I mean, again, either way is pretty gruesome.
But I hate that, just like, bloop, bloop.
But yeah, it's not great. And so as this log is moving slowly but closer to this massive saw at the end of the conveyor belt, the boys tell the criminals that they will never get away with their crimes. And the criminals are looking around like, who's gonna stop us? Like,
sure we will.
You guys are about to be like very, very split up into pieces. Yeah. I don't think that you're stopping us anytime soon.
Yeah, for real.
They don't know that these kids have the power of the spirit of 76 on their side. So we then see a regular handheld chainsaw that is sitting on a table nearby start to float through midair and make its way right in front of these villains, these timber mafia folks. And we can hear the voice of good old Jonathan Muddlemore say, Operation Apparition. That's what'll stop you.
Ooh, love it.
He's on one. Mudsie, he's feeling good today.
He was napping the whole time. He's ready to go now.
So Mudsie, he saws a hole in the floor underneath the criminals, sending them falling down into the basement that I guess this cabin has.
Oh, impressive.
And hey, good for them. And he turns off the giant saw just before the boys are split in half. And so as April and Mudsie try to untie Augie and Skip from this massive log, they hear more growling coming from outside. And moments later, Bigfoot, apparently the real Bigfoot, no, the saw was too loud. They couldn't hear him coming. So the real Bigfoot, apparently, allegedly busts into the cabin, grabs the two criminals from this hole in the basement, throws them into a barrel, and tightly closes the barrel shut.
Uh-oh.
And as all of this is happening, the kids are just standing there like,
Sir,
glad he's on our side.
Quiet.
I guess. Yeah, he can't see. They're like holding their noses, like, oh my God, he smells so bad.
Allegedly.
Yeah, but they're just happy to know that this alleged real Bigfoot is on their side. So the kids, they hear sirens approaching shortly after and surmise that the Rangers have finally arrived. And, they saw the smoke signal exactly. It worked. So outside of this cabin now, the Rangers are arresting Grog and what's his face, Mullins. I don't know why I keep forgetting his names.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. He's whatever. Timber Mafia. And they thank the kids for their work in catching the criminals, and they commend them, actually, as we said before, on their use of a smoke signal to get the Rangers' attention. Like, nice. Good job doing that. Like, well done, kids, alluding to like, yeah, you guys did it the right way.
Yeah.
So lastly, the Rangers congratulate the kids for their public spirit. Like, thank you so much for serving the public and for your public spirit. And Muggsy then pops out, obviously, and says, and for their private spirit. And then, like, goes back invisible, clearly scaring the shit out of the Ranger. Like, what was that? What was that? What the hell? Bigfoot? So, which is why I said earlier, like, if Muggsy had gone to the Rangers before to tell them about Bigfoot, I don't think it would have gone well.
You're right.
Yeah. But yes, so at this point, they drive the villains off, and they actually let the kids keep some of the tools used by the loggers to impersonate Bigfoot, like parts of the costume.
That's evidence.
Which in my mind is bad. I was like, yeah, this is evidence of federal crime, sir. You're a ranger. This is literally the opposite of what you're supposed to do.
You're supposed to collect all of this.
But whatever. I'm sure there's enough of a paper trail or whatever to still convict these guys.
Those Rangers are corrupt and part of the Timber Mafia. They're like, yeah, go take some of those
good job.
evidence.
Good job.
Costumes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Go
you're
for
good,
it, kids.
So you guys are leaving today, right? And you're not coming back.
Never coming back. You've seen what you need to see. Great. Thanks for your public spirit.
Exactly. Honestly, you're probably right. After reading about the Timber Mafia and the
it goes all the way to the top.
You're probably right. So, yes, eventually the kids, they go back to their campsite and they enjoy their camping trip. They finish it off the good old-fashioned way, sitting on the ground around a weak-ass campfire, roasting hot dogs on a stick, while Elmo and Boo chase each other and play/fight through the woods. The end.
Wow. If that all had happened to you, would you camp another night, or would you be like, get the fuck out of there? We just confirmed Bigfoot was real and threw some huge dudes into a barrel to suffocate them until the Rangers came and saved them.
It's goodbye. He's on our side.
It's chill.
But it's like, also, aside from all of that, even if this mythical creature is real, in fact, and like on your side, your friend just got kidnapped and tortured like 3 times today. Like, I want to go home.
They want to go home.
I want to sleep in a bed. I do not want to sleep on the ground tonight. I want a meal. I want to call my mother and my father. I need to tell them I'm okay. I need to tell them I love them.
Also,
not
the police need to interview you.
Yeah, right.
You're a witness.
No, because the Rangers are in on it. They're not arresting these guys. You're 1,000% right about that speculation.
Yeah, they're all the way in on it.
Continuing the camping trip is the last thing I'm doing if I am Augie Skip or April
or Muggsy even. Get out of there. Wow.
Yeah, Elmo, Boo, any of them.
Great job.
Thank you.
That's probably one of the most serious crimes we've dealt with in this show, I would say. This is definitely a felony.
I think so. It
Black
is
market.
Straight up. They got serious with it, which is why I seriously was falling down rabbit holes in Wikipedia. I had like 8 pages on illegal logging open from like USAID and like Greenpeace and like UNESCO and like all these different sources.
Hell yeah.
20 Bigfoot pages open, like 3 Sequoia National Park. Again, it's just off camera, but my board is covered in red.
Get your red thread out, because here's my wild speculation.
Okay, let me hear it.
Here's the thing. As we've established at the beginning, I am no Bigfoot lorist. I just hear stories here and there. I'm sure those like cool origin stories are awesome, et cetera, et cetera. But so I don't want to discount those. But in an alternate universe, what if the concept of Bigfoot was created by the Timber Mafia as a distraction? They wrote that Wikipedia page. They're like, those weird noises you hear in the woods in the middle of the night. It's not a saw. It's Bigfoot.
Not a didgeridoo, or it is a didgeridoo actually, but from the Timber Mafia.
Exactly. There's one dude playing the didgeridoo to hide the noises of chainsaws. It goes all the way to the top with the Timber Mafia.
Top. Man, you make a good point. And that's why there are alleged sightings in, like, I don't know, parts of California or whatever, because Timber Mafia is in any woods. What if all of them, every different one, so like Mothman, etc. It's like, well, we can't, because Mothman is Kentucky, right? Or is that North Carolina? It's somebody's like, well, we can't do Bigfoot all the way in North Carolina. Let's just say Mothman lives in these woods then. And if you come into the woods, you'll be killed by Mothman. I'll keep people out.
It destroys bridges, not because we don't want you to cross the bridge to get to our illegal operation. It's totally separate from that.
It has nothing
Kentucky,
to do
don't
with
worry
that
about it.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think we're on to something.
Allegedly,
also, I think that
it's the Timber Mafia.
Allegedly. Exactly. Very, very. It's probably actually not them whatsoever. They have absolutely nothing to do with this. And we just made it up. The Timber Mafia doesn't even exist. I don't want to go into witness protection. So
not for the
we might be digging ourselves an early grave along with these sequoias by piecing all of this together. Grace, instead of saying, need to buy some more yarn.
Instead of saying you're going to sleep with the fishes, they say you're going to sleep with the roots as they dig down for you.
Gonna bury it down with the roots. I bet we could track this. What's some of the illegal farm activity in Mexico that could explain chupacabra? Cartels.
Exactly.
They're killing the goats. They're killing the goats and then stuffing their bodies with drugs to smuggle over the border.
Allegedly.
No. It's chupacabra.
I mean, we already saw the Wild Thornberrys episode in which the Yeti was just trying to cover some tracks for real estate development. Yeah, so
exactly.
They had to destroy some landscape there too.
They were on to it.
Allegedly, just saying.
I think we allegedly just saying speculatively that maybe this is like possibly what's happening with these fake stories.
So, the cryptids, it's always the Timber Mafia. Anyways, great job.
Something. Thank you. So that brings us to the end of our Funky Phantom arc. And like you said at the beginning, Grace, with the way that this all came down, and I think this was a kind of long episode. One more after this, our speculation could probably get us
for our own safety.
Put out exactly.
We need to stop at this one.
Gotta cut it here. A clean cut ending on this note. So we're very excited though for our next show. I will say I'm going to miss the Funky Phantom, but our next show is a good one. We already know what we're doing, and we're about to kick that one off next week with Grace doing our episode. But until then, Grace, who should they tell about this this podcast?
Summer is right around the corner. Maybe you're going to be doing some traveling to our wonderful national parks or other federal lands. So you should tell a park ranger. If you go visit, we're not telling the alleged
the other folks.
The other
I thought you were going to say
in the woods. No, tell a park ranger about our show. Who else?
And I will say, to that extent, if you're going out camping and stuff, then playing off what you just said, tell the people in the woods. If you come across random people, maybe it's the Blair Witch Project. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's
someone who's been lost for 3 weeks, sending a smoke signal.
Yeah, someone playing a didgeridoo. Just tell them, because if they're camping, then they will probably at least appreciate this episode that absolutely butchers the camping experience for us all. So
truly great. Allegedly.
Allegedly butchers it for us all.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Saturday Morning Mysteries.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share, rate, review, leave us a like, and drop a comment. We post episodes every Saturday and bonus tune tangents whenever we feel like it. So please subscribe so you don't miss the shenanigans.
And if you want to follow us on YouTube, click the bell under the YouTube subscribe button to receive notifications when new videos are posted.
And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, we have no idea what you're listening to us on. So just hit the big subscribe button on whatever app you're using. We believe in you.
Give us a follow on Twitter and Instagram at SatmornMist, all the abreves, and let us know if you have any episode or show requests by emailing SaturdayMorningMysteries@gmail.com.
Thanks to Jenna Kendall for the logo design and to Ava Sakiki for the music used during this week's episode.
See y'all groovy kids next week on Saturday Morning Mysteries.